Yes. Hello all, a great afternoon. Welcome to yet another live session of Narayana IAS Academy. So as all of you know, this is actually the continuation of the Prelims Masterclass, and yesterday Soumya ma'am would have actually stopped with the schemes part 1, and this is actually the lecture number 2 where we will be continuing with the schemes that actually belong or that have been the initiative by different other ministries. Okay. So yesterday in order to give an introduction about this masterclass, we've already started with this prelims masterclass for the upcoming prelims examination, and we have done with various other subjects like polity, economy, science and tech. Actually finished recently. History had actually started today, and then we also have come up with environment and ecology, where I would have taken 10 sessions of top most or the most important current affairs for the upcoming examination. So please do very diligently, and us after completing the schemes we'll move on to discuss about the reports and indices, and also we will discuss various topics on the international organizations and important locations that are in the news and so on. Okay, so this session actually becomes extremely important because schemes of late have been in the question where have been appearing more often in the examination, not only for the UPSC but other competitive examinations as well. So you need to know what are the different initiatives or the schemes that are brought by the different departments like the Ministry of Agriculture, then Ministry of new and renewable energy, then Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. What are all the initiatives? What is this initiative all about? What are the focus on the target goals that are actually set by these initiatives? Who are the beneficiaries, and what is the upper cap of funds that is actually given? All this we will actually be discussing. Okay, so as a continuation of the previous class, do you guys have anything to ask me? Please do ask me so that we can immediately jump into the conversation. Okay, the class. So waiting for any of you to ask. Okay, fine. So let's quickly jump into the discussion. Okay, so to start with, in yesterday's class we would have discussed a number of topics under number of schemes under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. So let us actually take a quick revision of the schemes that were there. So the first one was actually, 1 minute. Yeah. So the first one was the national mission on natural farming. So you would have discussed about the national mission on natural farming. So here we would have definitely discussed about what is the concept of natural farming. So it is actually the chemical free agriculture. So we would have discussed about different states that have actually set an example, and what are the methods in which the natural farming can actually be done. So all this we would have discussed in yesterday's session about the national mission on natural farming. Whereas the second topic we would have discussed will be on PM-KISAN Mandhan Yojana. Okay. So in this Mandhan Yojana, we would have definitely discussed about how do you actually give or support the old age farmers or provide this social security for the farmers. Okay, to have that income. That is why we had come up with doubling of farmers income, etc. Right. So we would have discussed about the next topic, that is PM Kisan Mandhan Yojana. Then we would have discussed about the digital agri mission. Okay, digital agri mission. So all these are initiatives of what? The Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And under this digital agri mission, we would have discussed about how do we involve the digital public infrastructure in order to enhance or make the lives of the farmers easier. Okay, so we would have discussed under all those topics under the digital agri mission. The fourth topic was what? The Namo drone Didi. So this is nothing but providing the drone services, that is drone services for the purpose of agriculture, to make women's life easier, okay, for different purposes. So this was actually the Namo drone Didi, which is the drone based agricultural services which are provided for women. Then the next would have actually been your what to say, PM-KISAN Yojana, or the scheme which aims at providing the income support to the farmers. Okay, So income support to the farmers is provided by the PM-KISAN scheme. So why do I actually repeat? It is just to give you the sense of completion and also to revise, okay, to revise what we have discussed in the earlier class. So this article was on what? This particular topic was on PM-KISAN Yojana. Then we would have discussed about PM Fasal Bima Yojana. So Fasal Bima Yojana. Okay. So this Fasal Bima Yojana is a crop insurance scheme. So if you see, it is also a PYQ. So how much of insurance coverage is provided to which crop? Okay, the Rabi as well as the Kharif as well as the Zaid crop. So all this would have actually been discussed in this particular article. So what are the articles? National Mission on Natural Farming. The next one is Namo Drone Didi. Then PM-KISAN Mandhan Yojana, where you actually provide the security and the old age benefits to the farmers. Next one is Digital Agricultural Mission, using the digital public infrastructure. Next one is your PM-KISAN Yojana, again providing income support to the farmers. And finally the PM Fasal Bima Yojana, where it is actually an insurance that is given to the crops. Okay, so these are all the different schemes under the Ministry of Agriculture. Next, we moved on to the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, where we discussed about, let me erase this. So, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, sorry, let me write it over here. Under Ministry of Panchayat. Okay, so here we brought about a technology in order to survey the village land parcels. Okay, parcels of land being surveyed using innovative technology. So this particular scheme was called as what? The SVAMITVA scheme. The SVAMITVA scheme. Okay, so we discussed about this particular scheme and then we moved on to NITHI Aayog. So we finished the Ministry of Agriculture, then we moved on to Ministry of Panchayati Raj, then we moved on to NITHI Aayog, where we spoke about what? The Atal Innovation Mission. Okay, and after that we moved on to the Ministry of Education. Under Ministry of Education also we discussed the concept of the Vidyalaxmi Scheme, where you are providing scholarship for the people, or for scholarship for students in order to pursue quality as well as higher education. Okay, so this was the Vidyalaxmi scheme. After that we spoke about one nation one subscription, where there has to be common access to the knowledge as well as all these research papers and all those materials have to be available. That is why we brought this one nation one subscription, as well as we spoke about PM-USHA. Okay, so this actually stands for Uchthar, that means higher education. Uchthar Abhiyan. Okay, so we discussed about all these schemes. So after completing Ministry of Agriculture, then the schemes under Ministry of Panchayati Raj, then NITHI Aayog as well as Ministry of Education. Today we will be moving to the next set of schemes. Okay, so today we will be starting with the Ministry of Civil. God, why is this happening? Okay, so today we will move on to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, where we will be discussing about the Udan scheme. Okay, what is Udan? Uday Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. This is nothing but a scheme. I'm just giving you an overview. Okay, so this is nothing but it is a scheme where you will actually focus on giving affordable air travel. Okay, for the middle income group, or making the travel very affordable for all the citizens of our country, for which the subsidy is actually given by the government to the airlines. Okay, so we'll also be discussing about what are the various provisions of this Udan scheme, when did it come into existence, and all those things we'll be discussing in this article. So this scheme aims at providing connectivity from other areas to the underserved areas. Okay, so this is what it is, or unserved areas. So this is your Udan scheme. Next one, we will be moving to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, where we will be discussing about the PM Jan Jatiya Unnat Abhiyan. Okay, so we'll be discussing one about this. Okay, so this is actually about improving the lives of the tribal people. Okay, so this is one, that is Janjatiya Unnat Abhiyan. Then moving forward, we'll be discussing about the Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. Okay, where again it is actually focused on what? Improving or enhancing the lifestyle by providing them a holistic development. So this is your PM Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. Okay, so this is what we'll be discussing under Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and then we will move on to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, so Housing and Urban Affairs, under that we'll be discussing three different schemes. So one is actually your PM Awas Yojana 2.0. So what is this Awas Yojana? Providing the climate resilient or Pakka household for the EWS, that is the you want to say economically backward sections, then providing for the low income as well as the middle income groups. So you are actually providing affordable housing, okay, to a number of population under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, so this is your PM Awas Yojana 2.0, and the first version of it actually came into existence around 2015, where there was actually a promise made for providing around 1.18 crores of houses. Okay, whereas up until now, there are in the phase 1 there are around 85 lakh houses that have actually been completed and given to the people also. So PM Awas Yojana is one that will be discussing. Then we will be discussing about the National Urban Livelihood Mission. Livelihood Mission. Okay, so this is one scheme we will be discussing. The next one we will be discussing about the Smart Cities Mission. Okay, this is the Smart Cities Mission. Here we will be discussing about the concept of what is a smart city. Okay, so there are 6 to 7 parameters on which the cities are actually classified into smart cities. Okay, so for example, the community should actually be at the focus. So if the focus is on the community, then the particular city is actually designated or it is selected for the smart city concept. The next one, it actually has to use technology as a means, and technology should not be the goal. At the same time, all the different what you say, the initiatives that are taken by that particular city with respect to environmental sustainability, economy, etc., must face a convergence, and also it must actually work on the principle of cooperative federalism. Then it has to focus on more from less of the resources it has. So like that, you actually have 6 parameters on which a smart city is classified, and we will be discussing this particular concept of Smart Cities Mission. Okay, so these are the topics we'll be discussing under Housing and Urban Affairs. Then we'll move on to the Ministry of Social Justice as well as Empowerment, where we'll be discussing about the SMILE scheme. Okay, SMILE actually stands for support that is given for your marginalized individuals. Okay, so marginalized individuals, for example, those who are involved in begging. So this also includes children. Okay, so uplifting their lives. Okay, and livelihood enterprise. Okay, so this is nothing but support for marginalized individuals for livelihood as well as enterprise. So this is what is the SMILE scheme. Then we will move on to the next scheme, that is under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Okay, so here we will talk about the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Okay, where you focus on providing the solar installations to all the households for generation of electricity. Then we will move on to the next scheme, that is the PM-KUSUM scheme, where you are involving, or you can say integrating, the renewable energy practices in the irrigation that is actually carried by the or carried on by the farmers. Okay, so this is what is your PM-KUSUM scheme. Okay, so with this, what are all the other articles we'll be discussing? We also have the MORTH. Where is it? Yeah. So Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways. Okay, Transport and Highways. Over here we will be discussing on the scheme of Jalwahak scheme. Okay, where you focus on what you say, expanding the utilization of your inland waterways as an infrastructure. You actually what to say, increase the amount of cargo that is actually passing through the inland waterways from the current 132 million tons to around 200 million tons in 2030 and around 500 million tons in 2050. Okay, so this is what is your introduction for the day. So we had actually started with the schemes and news. We have comfortably covered the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, discussed about Ministry of Panchayati Raj, SVAMITVA scheme. Next, NIDHI Ayog, you have the Atal Innovation Mission. And next one is the Ministry of Education. You had the Vidyalaxmi, One Nation, One Subscription, as well as the USHA scheme over there. And then Ministry of Civil Aviation is what we'll have to start with today. Okay. So let's quickly move on to today's session, that is Ministry of Civil Aviation. So here we will be discussing on this particular scheme, which is called as Udan scheme, that focuses on providing affordable air travel to its citizens. Okay, affordable air travel is provided to the citizens. Okay, so this is actually your Udan scheme. Let's quickly start with no further delay. So the union government has recently extended this particular Udan scheme, that stands for Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. Okay, so this is actually a regional connectivity scheme for additional 10 years. Okay, so it is supposed to expire by 2026, but now it is going to continue for another 10 years to around 2036. Okay, so now let us actually discuss about the provisions of this scheme. So it was launched in 2016. Of course, since it's the Ministry of Civil Aviation that we are discussing, so flights and all the things, air travel, all that comes under civil aviation. Okay, so by the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and it was initially launched for a 10-year period. As I told you, in order to provide affordable air travel to all the citizens, this was actually launched. Okay, specifically those residing in the tier 2 as well as tier 3 cities. So what are tier 2 and tier 3 cities? See, this classification is just an informal classification that is actually given for our convenience. Okay, so this is based on different parameters, like the city actually runs on what economy, and then what is the infrastructure that is actually there, what is the plight of agriculture over there, and what is the improvement, what is the quality and the standard of life of the people. So based on all these factors, the cities are classified into tier 1, tier 2 cities. Like tier 1 include these metros majorly, like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, etc. Whereas tier 2 actually involves cities like Coimbatore, etc. Okay, so this is what is the classification of different tier cities. So people who are residing in these tier 2 cities, they have to have the affordable air travel. So that is why the scheme was actually introduced with, the connectivity should be with what? Limited or no air connectivity. Okay, so regions which have limited or no air connectivity must have air connectivity. So it enhances the connectivity to the unserved and the underserved airports across the country. Okay, next one, it is a central sector scheme. Very, very important. What do you mean by central sector scheme and centrally sponsored scheme? So first, centrally sponsored scheme, here the funding for that particular project or the implementation is shared between the center and the states. Like for example, 90% of the funding is given by the center and the 10% is given by northeastern states and UT, or 50% is given by the center and 50% by other states. So this is called as the centrally sponsored scheme. Whereas if it is a central sector scheme, that means the entire funding is actually given by the central government. Okay, so this particular Uday Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, that is Udan scheme, is a central sector scheme. Very, very important. See, towards the end of the session, not today's session, when we are ending with the schemes, no, we will be discussing, or I will bring up a tabular column where I will actually tell you which are all the central sector schemes and centrally sponsored schemes and how to remember them. Okay, so this is a central sector scheme, and of course Airport Authority of India will be your implementing agency, and the first Udan flight was actually inaugurated in the year 2017, and this actually connected Shimla to Delhi. Okay, however, it's just a fact that you need to know. Now moving forward, let us see what are the key features of this Udan scheme. Okay, so I think it is actually visible, or let me zoom it for you guys. So here, first one, partnership with the airlines. So who gets into, for example, the government of India gets into partnership, for example, let's say Air India. Okay, so the government partners with the airlines in order to incentivize them to operate the flights on the identified routes. For example, if the route is, if they are saying that connect Shimla to Delhi, then what happens? The government actually gets into cooperation, or what you say, the partnership with that of the Air India. For example, they want to leave the Air India flight, and then they incentivize them. For example, if you say Shimla to Delhi is going to cost around 7,000 rupees. Okay, so the government puts a cap. There will be a fair cap on the individuals. That is, individuals can pay only rupees 2,500. Okay, so this is actually your cap. Say for example 5,000. So the individuals should pay only 2,500, and now in 2,500 it won't be economical for the airlines to operate and take you to Shimla, right? Because you have all the other needs. For example, servicing of the aircraft is there, you need to pay your people who are there, that is your air hostess, your pilot, etc. And also you have your what to say, your fuel charges, so it won't be economical. So what happens is that the actual cost of the flight will be around 5,000. So there is a gap, right? So this gap of funds, that is 2,500 more rupees, which needs to fill the gap for the actual travel, is provided by the government. And in what form? Via the viability gap funding. What do you mean by viability gap funding? If any kind of a project is there, okay, where it is not financially attractive for any kind of private investors, but it is economically possible or it is economically justified, then what does it do? What does the government do? They actually pitch in and they sponsor. So this is called as viability gap funding. Okay, so the government partners with the airlines to incentivize them to operate the flights on the identified routes, and this actually increases the regional air connectivity, and the funding is through viability gap funding. Okay, so this is what it is between the operational cost as well as the expected revenue. Do you understand that gap of money which is either causing loss, or if it is not economical, that is actually provided by who? The government. So this is what they are saying. Next one is subsidy bidding. Okay, so here it is actually done. So which airlines is given this opportunity to be a part of this scheme is done through the bidding. Okay, so all the airlines will come. For example, the SpiceJet, Indigo, Alliance Air, everyone will come, and whoever bids the lowest subsidy, like for example they are saying my 5,000 is actually going to be the cost for me to take your passengers from Shimla to Delhi, so you can give me 1,500. So if this is what Indigo tells, and if Air India says no, we need 2,500, then who will actually win the bid? Here Indigo will win the bid. So whoever actually makes the lowest bid, that is the requirement for subsidy, will win it. Okay, so the subsidy bidding, the airlines will bid for the routes, and the airline which is asking for the lowest subsidy will be awarded this particular route. And the fare cap, I already told you. So airfares are capped at rupees 2,500 for 1 hour flight for approximately around 500 kilometers on a fixed wing aircraft, or a half hour helicopter ride. Half an hour helicopter ride is actually capped at 2,500. This ensures that your travel is affordable. Okay, next one, there is minimum reserved seats. Okay, so in a particular flight, what happens? At least 50% of such seats should be reserved. Okay, with a minimum of 9 seats and a maximum of 40 seats per flight. Okay, so this is what is the provision under this particular scheme of Uday Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, which actually provides affordable connectivity to your passengers. Okay, now let's move forward. we will be discussing about the Ministry of or the schemes of Ministry of Tribal Affairs, where I actually told you the first scheme is nothing but it is your your first scheme is your Pradhan Mantri Jan Jatiya Unnat Abhiyan. Okay, and the next one is actually the PM Van Bandhan Kalyan Yojana. Okay, so these schemes for the upliftment of the tribal community, how it is done, okay, whether they are organizing these tribes into more skilled people or not, let's actually look into this particular abhiyan. Okay, so the first scheme is nothing but it's about your Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. So recently the cabinet has actually approved this particular scheme with over an outlay, with a budget over an outlay of around 80,000 crores. Okay, so now let us actually move into understanding this particular Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. You just need to repeat the names of the scheme so that you are able to spot the right scheme in your examination. Okay, so whether this is a central sector scheme or the centrally sponsored scheme, this is a central sponsored scheme. How do you remember whether it's a central sector sponsored scheme? See, there are around 700 tribal communities, okay, across India, and they are spread across different states. So here we actually need the center's intervention also to support the upliftment of the tribes. That's how you remember it as a centrally sponsored scheme. And this is for what? The welfare of the tribal communities who are living in the tribal majority villages as well as the aspirational districts. What do you mean by aspirational districts? Here the number of districts which have to be which have to have immediate development. Okay, so immediate development as in terms of education, okay, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of agriculture, those are actually selected by the government as aspirational districts. Okay, so this is what it is. Next one, India has the scheduled tribe of over 10.45 crores, and this is as per 2011 census. And there are more than 700 tribal communities who are spread across the country in the most remote as well as hard to reach areas, right? So in order to, who will take care about their welfare? Definitely the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So that is why they brought this centrally sponsored scheme with an outlay. Centrally sponsored means what? Of the total 80,000 crores, the center will actually give around 56,000 crores, and the state will give the remaining 22,000 crores. Okay, the coverage, it will actually cover around 65,000 or 63,000 villages across the country, which covers 5 crore tribal people across 550 districts and 2,740 blocks across 30 different states and UT. See, these numbers are not important, but remember, it's a centrally sponsored scheme. States are also involved. Around how many states, in how many states the tribal community will be benefited? Around 30 states as well as UTs. Okay. Now moving forward, we will see what are all the innovative schemes under this PM Juga. That is nothing but the Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. Okay. So under this, there is this tribal homestay. This is what, this actually promotes the tribal tourism so that it enhances the livelihood options also for the tourists. For example, if you actually come up with an infrastructure or the hotel stays in the tribal areas, for example, you have the Molingnong village. Okay, so this is actually present in the East Kashi district of Meghalaya. East Kashi district of Meghalaya. Okay, so this particular area is inhabited by the Kashi tribes. Okay, so when you provide the tourism options, then what happens? It definitely gives them what? There will be construction and renovation of homestays in the villages itself. That will increase the livelihood. Apart from the forest produce, they can use this also as a livelihood. Okay, option for livelihood. So this is what actually happens. The next one, sustainable livelihood for the forest rights holders. There are these tribal people who are given the rights over the forest produce, right, under the Forest Conservation Act. So it actually covers the sustainable livelihood for these kind of holders, okay, whoever has the forest rights. It focuses on around 22 lakh forest rights, holders, patta holders, and it provides the converged benefits of the government schemes for the forest conservation as well as your livelihood, okay. Next one, improving the education infrastructure, okay. If there are tribal schools as well as hostels in the far flung or the remote areas, it helps in the upgradation of such places, okay. And it provides a lot of educational what to say resources, as well as provides the increase in the retention rates. And this is actually in line with the PM Shri schools. So any doubt so far? PM Shri schools, are you aware of what is PM Shri schools? PM Shri schools are nothing but these are the, it is called as Pradhan Mantri schools for what to say, rising India. Okay, so this particular concept came in the year 2022. Why it actually came into existence? It had different missions. So PM Shri schools for rising India. So this actually focuses on giving inclusive as well as equitable education, and also provide the best of your infrastructure that includes technology, and also to fulfill all the provisions of the National Education Policy of 2020. So these are the objectives of PM Shri schools, okay. So this is what it is. So the innovative schemes under this particular abhiyan. Next one is advanced facilities, provide advanced facilities for the sickle cell diseases, okay. So you actually have to establish the center of competence in order to provide what affordable and accessible diagnostic treatments, okay, of the sickle cell disease. What do you mean by sickle cell disease? Usually the RBCs, that is the red blood cells of your body that actually carry oxygen, right? So that those are actually spherical in shape, but this is a genetic disease. If you inherit from either of your parents, what happens? Your red blood cells actually become sickle shaped, okay. So when this is sickle shaped, if it cannot actually carry enough of oxygen, and also when this degenerates or breakdowns, it results in the condition of anemia. So this is what is called as sickle cell. For that also this particular scheme aims to. So it will actually be very tricky. In prelims they will give you this what to say, Janjatiya Gram Abhiyan. Does it focus on establishing the centers of competence for treating sickle cell anemia? You guys should not be confused. Yes, it does. So that is why we have involved over here, because India is actually the second highest, it has the second highest burden of the sickle cell, what to say, anemia or sickle cell diseases after the African countries. And if you see, 1 in every 86 births among the ST population is affected by SCD. Okay, so with specific focus on the central, western as well as the southern India. Next, the establishment of what? Tribal multi-purpose marketing center. Okay, so around 100 TMMCs for efficient tribal product marketing should be there in order to what to say, provide, or you can say improve the branding, the packaging, and reducing the post production losses, okay. So for this only they had established this Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyana Yojana. So Kalyan Yojana, so this we will be looking in the as a part of the next article or the next topic discussion, okay. So I hope so far you understood the two schemes that we had actually discussed. So we had discussed about the Ministry of Civil Aviation that came up with the Udan scheme. Then we actually moved on to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. The first one is Janjatiya Unnat Gram Yo Abhiyan, and then we actually moved on to the third important scheme. This is Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyana, Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. Okay, so this actually celebrates 10 years of empowering, that is a decade of empowering the tribal community based on what? The holistic development as well as improved infrastructure. So now let us see what are the different provisions of the scheme. So this was actually launched in the year 2014, almost 10 years, right? So that is why it is actually celebrating the decadal anniversary. So It is actually established in 2015, of course, by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Focuses on the holistic development of tribal areas. And holistic development as in what? It does not only include the development of that village, but that has to be in terms of education as well as livelihoods. Okay, so the budget is around 26,000 crores from the period of 2021 to 2026, and there has been an outlay of 4,300 crores for the next year, that is 2024 to 2025. The impact is it aims to support over 28 lakh students and improve the amenities in around 5,000 villages. Okay, so if you see over here, these are 6 steps under the Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. That is the Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. These actually have to be established. The next one is development of PVTGs PM Janman. Okay, PVTGs are the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. And then you have to provide assistance for the tribal research institutes, provide them with pre-metric scholarship. That is, when you are present in 9th class, what happens? You have the person actually should be given the pre-metric scholarship, and after that the 11th class tribal students will be given the post-metric scholarship in the ST families which has an income of around 2.5 lakhs per annum. Okay, so this is what is the criteria. Next one, administrative assistance is provided to the states for setting up a project management unit. Okay, so these are all the what to say provisions that are provided under this particular scheme. Okay, that is Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. Moving forward, if you see, it aims at improving the living standards of the tribal people via providing essential services as well as infrastructure. And also, not only the infrastructure but also employment plays an important role, as well as education plays an important role. Okay, provide them proper road, provide them proper electricity as well as connectivity, and also help them preserve their culture, at the same time empowering them. Okay, so this is what it is. Then we will see the key components. Okay, so here Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. So there have to be this is nothing but these are villages that are selected in order to become model villages. Okay, model villages with proper infrastructure services. Okay, so these are Pradhan Mantri villages. So this is nothing but 36,428 villages should be developed. Next one, PVTG's upliftment, of course, uplifting the vulnerable people with housing, health, education, etc. Next one, tribal research institutes. So not only research, you have to document the presence of such tribes, okay, as well as their rich heritage and culture. Next one, pre-metric and post-metric scholarship, that is scholarship for the students, right? So we know this. Next one, project management units. This is for effective scheme implementation and for overseeing that if the schemes are properly done in these particular model villages. Okay, so these are the different provisions. Next, now we will move on to the next important topic, that is nothing but Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, so under this we will be discussing 3 important articles. So far if you have any doubts, please do ask me. Any doubts so far? You can please comment that in the comment section. So under the next topic, that is Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we will be discussing 3 important articles. The one will be on Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that is 2.0 as well as 1.0. And then we will be discussing about the next scheme, that is the National Urban Livelihood Mission. And we'll be discussing about various provisions under the scheme. And then the Smart Cities Mission. What is a smart city? The eligibility criteria for a city to be called as a smart city. All that we'll be discussing. Okay. Okay. So let us actually start with the next topic. Okay. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The first topic is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, or the scheme for affordable household. Affordable housing. Okay, so the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban 2.0 scheme has actually received the approval from the Union Cabinet. So now let us move on to understand what is this particular scheme. So of course the nodal ministry for this housing scheme, that is affordable housing, will be what? Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The major vision and the objective is to provide housing for all, right? And the tenure is for 5 years. What are the tenure? That is 2.0. This is for 5 years, that is 2020-24 till 2029. Okay, so this is the 5 years, 2024 to 2029. So what is this scheme? Whether it is a central sector scheme or it's a centrally sponsored scheme, this is very interesting. Okay, this is a centrally sponsored scheme, that is the construction will be done in the model of centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, whereas the loans or the interest subsidy that is actually given on the loans will be done on what? As a central sector scheme. So how this is done is that the construction of the households, okay, for everybody, for all the people in the urban areas, that actually has to be divided, or it has to be sponsored by the center as well as the state. So that is the construction. Whereas if you are giving out, when the scheme is actually giving out some loan, then what happens? The interest subsidy that is provided on these loans is by the center. So in that state, it is actually a central sector scheme. So that is called as the interest subsidy scheme. Okay, understood? So this will be implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme, except for the interest subsidy scheme component, okay, which will be implemented as a central sector scheme. So who are all eligible? Here, your economically weaker section, okay. Then you have the middle income groups, the low income group population who do not have a pakka house, okay, anywhere, that is with a proper roof as well as the proper flooring, that is called as a pakka house. If you actually don't have that anywhere in the country, then you are eligible to purchase a house under the PM-AY 2.0. Okay, so who are the EWS? So these are the people who actually have an annual income of up to 3 lakh rupees. Then who are the low income groups? These are also the people who actually have an income from 3 lakh to 6 lakh, 6 lakh. And the next group of people are from 6 lakhs. These are nothing but your middle income group, 6 lakhs to 9 lakhs. So these are the middle income groups. Okay, so all these people who do not have any kind of house anywhere in the country can actually purchase a household under this particular scheme. Okay, so this is what is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana 2.0. Now let's discuss about the coverage of the scheme. So what are the, how does the scheme actually say that this is going to be the particular area or the town in which I am going to construct, or I am going to give subsidies for my people in order to construct the house? It is based on the statutory towns which are as per the census 2011. Okay, so what do you mean by the statutory town? Statutory towns are those that are declared by the government as urban. Okay, so the state government actually have to recognize that this particular area is urban as per, or you can say based on the legal or the administrative statuses. Okay, so this is what is called as the statutory town, which actually has the urban status given or declared by the state government as per the census 2011, and the towns that are notified subsequently. So these are actually called as statutory towns. So coverage of the scheme includes all the statutory towns. Next one, how is the funding mechanism? The cost of house construction under different verticals except for the interest subsidy scheme. We saw that, I told you, right? Interest subsidy scheme shall be shared among the ministry. So construction is shared among by the center, the state, the UT, or the urban local body, and they are whoever are identified as beneficiaries. So under the ISS, that is the interest subsidy vertical, the central assistance is actually given of around how much? 1.8 lakh subsidy will be given to eligible beneficiaries in installments of 5 years. So this is actually the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana 2.0. Now we will actually see different key features of the scheme. Very, very important. So these schemes are all directly taken from the ministry websites itself. Okay, it's from nowhere else but from ministry website. So it is very important to understand every word. For example, if I say beneficiary led construction, you need to know what that is. And what to say, affordable housing in partnership, that also you need to know. Then affordable rental housing, what does that mean? Then what interest subsidy scheme, that is actually on the model of central sector scheme, all that you need to know. What are they and how do they and what do they mean, and they actually essentially fall under which scheme? Okay, you need to know. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, fine. Let's actually start with the key components of this particular Awas Yojana. Okay, so the beneficiary led construction is there. That is the what to say, the loan, or you can say financial aid, is actually given for the EWS families to build a new house on their own land or the land which are provided by the states or UTs. Very important. You can actually take the financial aid and, or either build on your own land or the land where the state or the UTs actually point. Next, affordable houses in partnership. Here, your redeemable housing vouchers will be given to the EWS families to what? To own the houses built through different partnerships. Okay. Next one, affordable rental housing. So this actually provides rental housing to whom? The urban migrants, very important, and other eligible groups. How? Through two models, model 1 and model 2, where under model 1, conversion of government funded vacant houses into the affordable rental houses through PPP or through public agencies, that is here public private partnership. Okay, or through model 2, where there is construction, operation and maintenance of rental housing by private public agencies with what? Technology innovation grant incentives for innovation technology use. Okay, so your affordable renting houses are actually given under two components. One is what? One is the conversion of government funded housing by using this PPP or the public agencies. The next one is construction operation by using different technology. Next one, the interest subsidy scheme. This actually offers a subsidy on home loans for the EWS and the low income and the middle income families with a subsidy. How much subsidy? Of up to 4%. This is on loans up to 25 lakh. Okay, for properties worth up to 35 lakhs. Okay, so these are all the different components of this particular scheme. Now let's move forward. Okay. Other important features of the scheme. We discussed about this, right? The technology and innovation submission. So this will actually be set up. The submission will be under this PM 2.0 in order to guide the states as well as the UTs and the other stakeholders in adoption of what? Modern, innovative as well as green technologies. Okay. So that you are, sustainably building, your quality is also not compromised, and there is speedy construction as well. Next one, affordable housing policy. We discussed this, right? In order to take the benefits of this particular scheme, the states and the UTs have to come up with the policy, that is affordable housing policy, which actually contains various reforms. What are all the reforms that you're going to take? What are all the incentives that you're going to give, so that you encourage the participation from the public to the private entities? That is, if the public entity is coming forward in order to construct these houses for the lower income as well as middle income and the EWS groups, then what is the incentive you're going to get? Whether I will actually allot you the next project, or whether you will be helpful in construction of this particular government office. So such incentives have to be told. Okay. Next one, about the PM-AY 1.0. I told you it came into existence in the year 2015. Okay. So this is, it focused on providing an all-weather Pakka houses to the eligible urban beneficiaries. So under this, 1.18 crore houses have been sanctioned, with over 85 lakh houses have been constructed and in fact handed over to the beneficiaries. Okay. So these are all the different provisions under this particular scheme. Now we will move on to the next scheme, that is your National Urban Livelihood Mission. Okay, National Urban Livelihood Mission. So here it actually focuses on how do you organize the urban poor. So the urban poor members are actually organized into the self-help groups by providing them the sufficient skills that are required in order to make them market ready for employment. Okay, so that is what is this particular scheme. We will see it has also replaced an already existing scheme. That scheme is also very important. So we will see here. Let us actually take a 1 minute break where I'll want to just have a sip of water, and then we will continue. Okay. Okay. So let us continue with this particular National Urban Livelihood Mission. We will check for comments and then move forward. Okay. So far we don't have any doubts or anything. Okay. So let us move forward. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is planning to introduce the National Urban Livelihood Mission, that is the NULM 2.0. So here it is very important for us to discuss the different provisions of what is the mission in itself. Okay, so this particular mission, that is the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihood Mission. There is also National Rural Livelihood Mission. Don't confuse with both. Okay, so National Urban Livelihood Mission, this was actually introduced in the year 2013. Very important, and this was actually by the Ministry of Housing as well as Urban Poverty Alleviation. Okay, so very important, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, and this actually replaced a very important scheme in the year 2016. What scheme is that? It is the Swarna Jayanti Sahari Rozgar Yojana. Very important, and then it got renamed as the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihood Mission. Okay, the objective here is focuses mainly on organizing the urban poor to the self-help groups. Okay, and how you do that? By providing skill development. Okay, depending on the market-based employment. So what is the necessary skill that is required by these people in order to be employment ready in the market? Okay, and also facilitate the self-employment ventures. That is, for example, if you want to set up an own enterprise or business, you have to get proper credit, right? Credit means the financing and the financial aid. So this actually helps you in order to access the credit in case you want to be skilled or to be or you want to set up your own venture. Okay, so this is the major aim of the scheme. So what are the other features of the scheme? First is skill development and employment. Of course, it promotes skill development and employment. Why? In order to improve the livelihood. Okay, how? Through the employment that is actually present in the market and making them skill ready. Okay, and the self-employed ventures we already saw. The next one is self-help groups. Okay, so this organizes these urban poor. Primarily you have women. Okay, so they are actually converted to SHGs in order to perform some kind of a collective action. So you need to perform a collective action, and so that through collective action you generate revenue also. Okay, like women come together, they form a self-help group, and for example they actually start making incense sticks, for example. So then there is actually selling of these incense sticks, they are getting the revenue, you're getting the economic empowerment also, then you are getting a social recognition as well. So this is what is the scheme. aiming at. Then support for the urban homeless also. So it actually provides these shelters, okay, shelter homes which are equipped with essential services, basic services like your proper ventilation, fan, and then you have the drinking water, sanitation, the toilet facilities, all that is being provided. Next one also provides support to the street vendors, okay, that is they have sufficient spaces, they have the financial aid, they have social security and the skills in order to empower the street vendors, okay. So these are all the key features. So not only the skill development but also supporting the street vendors, then establishing shelters, making sure that there are basic amenities, and then convert or organizing these poor into self-help groups. All those things are very important over here. Next one is key features of this scheme. If it is not visible, let me zoom it, okay. So let's see the formation or what has been the performance of this scheme in terms of formation of self-help groups, etc. So there have been significant SHG formation, that is around 9 lakh self-help groups have actually been established, which empowers over 89, that is 90 lakh women, okay, and around 6.12 lakh SHGs. This actually has received a revolving fund, that is it has received funding, okay. Next one, skill training and employment. How many? Around 15 lakh beneficiaries have been skill trained, okay, and around 9 lakh people have been employed also, and then a few other people, that is 8 lakhs people, numbers are not important, they have actually been receiving aid in order to start their own ventures or businesses. Next one, street vendor recognition. That is, how do you recognize? There were surveys that were conducted in different cities where they actually identified 53 lakh street vendors, okay, and issuing vending certificates to around 37 lakh people and ID cards to around 31 lakh people. So this is the performance of this particular NULM, that is what? Your National Urban Livelihood Mission Scheme. Do you understand? Now, let us actually move on to see the next scheme. I think we still have it. 1 minute. Yeah. So we saw the scheme. This is a centrally sponsored scheme because you're conducting survey in order to identify these street vendors, skilling them. It's not an easy task for the center to skill everyone, right? So what do? So you actually take the support of the state as well. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Target beneficiary is definitely the urban poor and the urban homeless also. The coverage is initially implemented in all the district headquarters and towns which actually have a population as of 1 lakh. And this data is actually from the census 2011, and currently this scheme actually operates in around 800 cities, okay, and other towns may also be included based on case to case basis. These are also not important, okay. You just have to know that it's a centrally sponsored scheme. The funding, of course, the center and the states are actually there in the ratio. Very important, okay. So just because they are providing skill doesn't mean the center what to say will actually take it unilaterally on itself. There has to be contribution, but the center has become very magnanimous. It says, okay, we want to skill the poor into SHG, so let me give you 75% of the fund. So 75 is to 25. Remember it like a story, then only you will remember. And if there are northeastern states or the special category states that are recognized by the center, then the funding is like 90 is to 10, okay. So here, this is what is your National Urban Livelihood Mission. Now, what is this? 1 minute. Okay. So here, what is this National Urban Livelihood Mission 2.0? So everything has this 2.0, like the robot 2.0. So here, NULM 2.0, this actually provides the microcredit assistance. That is, it provides up to 4 lakh for individuals and 20 lakh for the groups. Okay, so this provides an assistance with a very subsidized interest rate of around 5% for starting enterprises or creating any kind of social infrastructure, and the pilot exercise will be done around 25 cities in order to actually find out who are the urban poor, who are the urban homeless, etc. Okay, next one is innovation grants. This actually what does it do? It supports the urban poor by providing the funds, okay, for enterprises as well as infrastructure like labor chalks, as well as setting up the sanitary machinery, sanitation machinery, etc. Okay, so this is what is your DAYNULL. Okay, so we are done with that particular topic. The last topic that we will be discussing on or under this particular Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs will be what? Your smart cities mission. Okay, so here the standing committee on housing as well as urban affairs recently submitted its report. Okay, so this is basically an evaluation of the smart cities mission. So the standing committee has recently submitted its report on the smart cities mission and evaluation. So let us see what are the key observations of this particular report. First of all, the smart city mission exactly came 10 years back. Okay, so 2015. In order, what does it actually aim at? In order to promote this, promote cities. Okay, so which are the basic cities? Whichever are the cities which, oh god, why is it not working? Okay, whichever are the cities which provide clean as well as sustainable environment. Okay, whichever are the cities which provide an infrastructure or core infrastructure, and overall which provides a better standard or quality of life to the citizens through smart mission or through smart solutions. So these cities are called as the smart cities. Okay, so whichever are the cities which actually come up with sustainable solutions, or you can say by what to say, the sustainable infrastructure as well as sustainable environment it actually provides by using smart technology or smart solutions are called as the smart cities. Okay, so let's see what is here. So the smart city mission was launched in 2015. The objective is that to promote cities that provide core infrastructure, clean as well as sustainable environment in order to give a decent or an improved quality of life to the citizens through the application of smart solutions is called as a smart city. And there are 6 different elements that a smart city should have. For example, the technology should be used as a means and not a goal. So you should not work hard as to reach that technological innovation or expertise, whereas in order to move towards developing a proper city through sustainability, you have to use innovative solutions, okay, through technology. So that is what it is. The next one is create or generate more from utilizing less resources. That is, there has to be a sustainable use of resources. Okay, this is what it says. The third one, all the stakeholders and different initiatives by different ministries actually have to converge together in order to achieve this. Okay, next one, there has to be cooperative as well as competitive federalism. Okay, there has to be a cooperative federalism where there has to be the center and the state should work hand in hand. Next one, community should be the focus over here. Next one is integration, innovation and sustainability comes as the 7th one. So this is about the smart cities mission. Now moving forward, we will see what are the different provisions of the scheme. Okay, so here, 1 minute, let me see if there are any kind of questions that are actually asked over here. I mean questions as in, okay. Okay, let's actually deal with this smart cities mission. So it's a centrally sponsored scheme again. So far we saw only a central sector, only one central sector scheme, that is what? Your Udan scheme. The others are all, we discussed that it is a centrally sponsored scheme, and there also under Awas Yojana, only that interest subsidy is treated as a central sector scheme, whereas the construction of the house is actually divided between the center as well as the states. Okay, so this is also a centrally sponsored scheme where the central government will give financial support to around 48,000 crores for over 5 years, okay, on an average of 100 crore per city per year. So in a year, a city will actually receive over 100 crores. So this is actually the financial incentive that the center will give. Later, the deadline got extended to 2024. Okay. So earlier it was actually a fixed period. Let me tell you what was a fixed period in the upcoming sessions. Okay, don't worry, it's not included here. So the implementing ministry, let's see. So the Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And what are the key features? Of course, there has to be sustainable development. There has to be what to say, inclusive development by creation of replicable models. Okay, so one city has to be developed in such a way that that city will be looked upon as a model city by the other cities. So this is what it is. Next one, 100 cities have been selected to be developed as smart cities, and there will be a two-stage competition that will actually take place, and the implementation of this mission at the city levels will be carried out by the special purpose vehicle. What is the special purpose vehicle? This is nothing but a legal entity that is actually set up like a company. Okay, as a company. Okay, through special purpose vehicle which is created for setting up of a as a legal or a limited company under the Companies Act of 2013. And what are the core elements which are woven around the six fundamental elements we saw, right? So first there has to be innovation, sustainability, and then there has to be community, that has to be the core focus, and then there have to be what to say, more from less resources, there has to be convergence we saw, and then there has to be cooperative federalism we saw, okay, and then there was one more. What was one more we saw here? We discussed all these things. Technology as a means and not as a goal. So this is what is the smart city concept. Okay, so smart city mission, it actually covers 100 cities, and they have been picked up in order to actually make them environmentally sustainable and also use smart solutions for that as a means and not as a goal. So let me see. Okay, so we saw, right, when was the extension? Actually, it had come into existence in 2015, right? So 2015 to 2020 was actually the deadline for the smart city mission, but now the period has been extended to 2024. Okay, so now let's move on to the next article, that is the SMILE. So the SMILE initiative. So this is actually under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, so the SMILE sub scheme on comprehensive rehabilitation of persons who are engaged in the art of, or in the, sorry, not art, in the act of begging, including children, is being implemented in 81 cities or towns. Okay, whichever are of religious, historical and tourist importance, you actually see more people who are involved in begging, right? So even if they are children or the elderly, they are actually brought, they have been brought into this particular scheme that is called as the SMILE scheme. This is nothing but stands for support that you give for what? The act of the marginalized. Support for marginalized individuals. For what purpose? In order to have livelihood. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, now let's move forward and understand what is SMILE. So SMILE stands for the support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise, launched by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in the year 2022. So here itself you actually know here what is the major aim of this particular scheme. In order to provide welfare, in order to provide rehabilitation of the people who are involved in begging. Specifically, if it is the transgender people. okay, who are involved here, they will be covered. Let us actually see. So to provide comprehensive rehabilitation, welfare and support to the marginalized people, specifically the transgenders, okay, who are involved in begging. So this is also a central sector scheme. Very, very important. So SMILE, it's a central sector scheme. Very important. Okay. So financial outlay. Okay. So what is the financial outlay? Around 365 crore over 5 years has actually been sanctioned. And the coverage, this is of course implemented through different states, that is across India, focusing on rehabilitation of transgender persons and individuals in begging. So eligibility criteria, first is the transgender persons. These are the people who must actually have a transgender certificate issued through the national portal for transgender persons. So the irony here is that these are homeless people, okay. They want to run their livelihood on a day-to-day basis, but in what means they will actually have a certificate that is given to them by the national portal for transgender persons? Here also the government only has to answer, okay. So this is what, and then the persons engaged in the act of begging. So individuals identified through the surveys conducted by the implementing agencies. That's how they are identified, okay. Now moving forward, we will see the two sub schemes under the SMILE initiative. That's what, one for the transgender persons, and next one scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of the persons who are involved in begging. So first, this one for the transgender person, rehabilitation for welfare of transgender. Here it provides the scholarship for the students from class 9 to the post graduation. It's a very good initiative, okay. And also they establish shelter homes, that is called as Ghar, okay, for safe housing. And then they again, once they finish the schooling, they need to have skill development, right? So they offer skill development also, and the livelihood programs. And then with respect to medical care, including the, what to say, sex reassignment surgeries are actually provided for them. Next one, set up the transgender protection cells in case they have any kind of safety issues and needs, okay. Next, scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of other people apart from transgenders. This, it is actually, they are identified based on the surveys, okay, by the different agencies. Next one, they actually focus on rehabilitation measures including provision of shelter, medical facilities and counseling. And it actually involves providing education, skill development, as well as other kind of economic needs, whatever they want. All that is provided by this particular scheme. So this is the SMILE scheme that we are discussing about. Next, let us move on to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So new and renewable energy is what? Adopting the renewable energy in any kind of practices, okay. So if you are going to adopt in your irrigation, then what is it? It is your PM-KUSUM scheme. Or if you are going to use the electricity at home and sell the excess of electricity to the government, then it actually comes under your PM Surya Ghar Bijli Yojana. Okay, so now let us discuss about these two important schemes. Okay, so any doubts so far? Okay, let us actually move forward. Let me just check for any comments and then we will move forward with this particular scheme. Okay, nothing so far. So let us continue with this particular scheme. Okay, so the union government has set the target of installing around 1 crore solar rooftop installations by the year 2027 under the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. So what is this Muft Bijli Yojana is what we'll have to discuss over here. So this is actually a very recent scheme which got launched in 2024 by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So what does it actually aim at? To provide the low cost electricity or free electricity to over 1 crore households up to 300 units of electricity per month. If your consumption is up to 300 units of electricity per month by installation of a solar rooftop, then we will actually give you they actually provide the free as well as the low cost electricity. The financial outlay is around 75,000 crores, and the eligibility is what? This is very, very important. The eligibility is the household must be an Indian citizen. Of course, these foreigners, no, they are actually extremely good at conservation efforts. Okay, so if they come there, if they actually want to settle anywhere and then they start with this, they are not given this particular benefit. Next, the house must actually own a house with a roof. Household must be a house which actually has a roof, and that should be suitable for installing a solar panel. Okay. Next one, the households must have a valid electricity connection and they must have not availed any other subsidy for solar panels. So that is when you are actually eligible for the subsidy under the Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Okay. Now moving forward, so what this is actually a part of India's Panchamrit, okay, that India committed, okay, or you can also call it as the India's green commitments that it made at the COP26 meeting of the UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Glasgow. Okay, so let us see what are the Panchamrit targets that India had first of all committed. The first one is actually to what to say, the 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy capacity. Set up the capacity, okay, of your energy in India of up to 500 gigawatts by using non-fossil fuel energy capacity by the year 2030. And next, 50% of your installed, energy consumption has to come from the renewable sources by the year 2030. Next one, reduce your carbon emission by 1 billion tons by the year 2030, and also reduce your carbon intense sectors out of the economy. For example, your steel, your fertilizers, cement, all these are very carbon intensive sectors. Okay, so you have to reduce the carbon intensity by 45% by the year 2030, and also achieve a zero emission target or zero carbon or neutrality target by the year 2070. So these are all the Panchamrit, or you can say the pledges that the India's green commitments that we had actually promised. Okay, so 500 gigawatt from non-fossil fuels by 2030, and 50% of the energy must come from the renewables by 2030. And next one, you have reduced carbon emissions, okay, by how much? By 1 billion ton by 2030. Next one, net zero by 2070, and the final one is reduce your carbon intensity sectors over 45%. So this is what is your commitment. Now let us see the key features. So first of all, the households, how will they actually apply for this particular subsidy is that there will be a national portal, okay, and then they'll actually be able to choose a suitable vendor. So the households will apply for the subsidy through a national portal, and they will be able to select a suitable vendor in order to install this particular rooftop solar panel. Okay, then what happens, they will be able to access the collateral free interest, low interest loans. Okay, the interest will be so low. Your normal loans around will be having an interest of around 10 to 11%, right? But this actually invites a loan, I mean interest of around 7% only, that to collateral free. You need not furnish any kind of documents for the installation of the rooftop solar systems up to 3 kilowatt. Okay, next, a model solar village will be developed. So in each district of the country, if you see, a model solar village will be developed, that all the others will actually follow similar guidelines. Okay, so this will act as the role model for adoption of roof solar in rural areas. Next, if you take the role of the urban local bodies as well as the Panchayati Raj institutions, they also will benefit from the incentives if they actually promote these rooftop solar installations in their areas. And it also provides what? A component for payment security for renewable energy service companies. So this is based on, these based models as a fund for innovative projects in RTS. So this is actually not very important. So skip this line. Now moving forward, what are the key outcome and the impacts of this scheme? Of course, it actually increases the so it actually increases the household savings as well as the income generation. How will the households benefit over here? They will actually benefit because they are generating through solar and their bills are going to be very less. Additionally, they have opportunity to earn more also. Whatever additional electricity that they have actually produced, they can sell the surplus power that is generated, okay? So that is generated to discoms, that is your, see here, distribution companies. So the household will benefit. How? Because the electricity bills, they will be able to save much on that, and in case they produce more, they can also earn by selling their surplus power generated by this rooftop to what? Discoms. These are nothing but your distribution companies. So distribution companies. Okay, so first there is power generation, and once that is generated, that is transmitted to long distances, right? And after that, it is distributed by these distribution companies to the households as well as to your businesses. So these are the discoms. This is done through discoms, okay? And it can also create, so much of employment, okay? So around 17 lakh direct jobs will be there across various sectors, and they can be involved anywhere in the supply chain, starting from, they can be in your manufacturing, they can be in logistics, and then supply chain, they can be in sales, they can be in installing this one, okay? Operation, maintenance, etc. Okay? And also helps in achieving the Panchamrit goals. We saw what are these green commitments that have been made by India. Okay, so this we have actually completed this particular scheme. So goal 1, all this we have discussed, right? So you have to install 30 gigawatt of rooftop solar capacity by the year 2026-2027, directly contributing to India's renewable energy target. Okay, so 30 gigawatt, remember, of rooftop solar. The goal 2 is actually by promoting decentralized solar installations. It enables households to shift from conventional, whatever you use, non-renewable, to the renewable energy sources. Next one, the scheme's targeted rooftop capacity will reduce the carbon dioxide emissions by around 720 million tons over 25 years of lifetime. And the goal 4 is rooftop solar adoption. This reduces your reliance on carbon intensive energy. So this in turn will actually reduce the amount of the carbon intensity. So low carbon intensity in the energy sector. The next one, it creates a sustainable ecosystem for renewable energy. Okay, so thereby it focuses on the long term decarbonization techniques as well as energy self sufficiency. So these are all the impacts of the, these are all the different goals of the scheme. Okay, so one is actually installing so much, that is 30 gigawatt of rooftop solar capacity by the year 2026-27. Next one, you have to decentralize, okay, solar installations and enable the household to shift from conventional to the renewable sources. Next one, for the next 25 years, you can actually reduce the carbon dioxide emissions by around 720 million tons. Next one, you can actually reduce your reliance on carbon intensive energy sources. And finally, you will be contributing to a long-term decarbonization as well as self-sufficiency solutions. Okay, so next topic, sorry, not the next topic. The subsidy provided under the scheme, it varies based on the household's average monthly electricity consumption, that we saw in the first slide itself, right? So if your average monthly consumption is around 0 to 150 units, here your suitable rooftop solar panel capacity will be around 1 to 2 kilowatt. In that case, you will be given a subsidy of 30,000 to 60,000. So if it is 150, then it is around 1 to 2 kilowatt. Over here you will be given up to from 30,000 to 60,000. If if the consumption is 150 to 300, then the capacity of installation should be 2 to 3 kilowatt, where you will be given a subsidy of around 60,000 to 78,000. And in case if it is more than 300 units of consumption, here it is above 3 kilowatt of suitable the solar energy capacity, plant capacity, and around 78,000 is actually given as a subsidy support. Okay. Now let's move forward to talk about the PM-KUSUM scheme. So approximately around 4 lakh farmers across the country have benefited from the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urj Suraksha Udan Mahabhiyan. This only stands for the KUSUM scheme. This is nothing but using renewable energy as a part of your irrigation. So this is what is the PM KUSUM. Okay. So now let us move forward in understanding what is the scheme. So this scheme was introduced by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, came up in the year 2019. Okay. So it is a central sector scheme. Okay. Udan central sector scheme. Okay. Awas Yojana, only the interest subsidy scheme is a part of central sector scheme. Otherwise, construction is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay. Smile Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment Central Sector Scheme. SMILE is what? Giving support to the marginalized groups, especially the transgenders. Okay. So this is what it is. Next one, KUSUM. Again, it's a central sector scheme. You have to remember this. Okay. How? Because here the farmers are actually they are create a story that you will be able to remember. Okay. So in a flight you have the transgender people traveling for the first time with a lot of smile. Okay. And then they actually, while flying, they see a lot of energy efficient irrigation system through KUSUM. So that is how you remember that this Udan scheme as well as the Awas Yojana, and then you have the SMILE as well as KUSUM actually coming under what? This particular centrally sector scheme. Okay. So this is a centrally sector scheme where it focuses on adding 34,800 megawatt of solar capacity by the year 2026. The eligibility is your individual farmers, the farmer producer organizations, that is your FPO, your farmer groups, the panchayats, cooperatives, panchayats, remember, cooperatives and the water user associations are included over here. Okay. The objective is you have to include renewable energy in the farmers irrigation practices. Okay. Then you have to replace any kind of high cost what to say diesel with that of the electricity that is actually produced by the solar energy. Then you have to reduce the agriculture electricity subsidy burden on the states and improving the financial health of the distribution companies. Very, very important. So reduce the electricity subsidy that is given by the states to the agriculture and improve the efficiency of discoms. Then you have to enhance or help the farmers gain access to the solar water pumps at subsidized rates. And also you have to give the an opportunity to the farmers to use their barren land by setting up the solar power plants. Okay. So wherever there is barren land which is actually not suitable for the agriculture, there these solar plants can or the solar panels can be set up. Okay. So these are all the different provisions or the objectives of this particular scheme. So what are the key components? First one, providing decentralized solar power plants. This is component A. Okay. Over there you provide a capacity of up to 10,000 megawatt and install the solar power of up to 500 kilowatt to 2 megawatt grid connected energy. Okay. On the farmer's land. And then the discoms purchase this power at a regulated tariff. Okay. So it's very easy, no? Whatever is a barren land, then you actually enable the farmers to use them to install the solar capacity. So solar panels, and whatever is the energy created, you actually sell it to the discoms. So this way what happens, it can also reduce the financial burden on the states from giving you subsidy for agriculture, right? Because your income, you are earning sufficient income. So this is what they are saying. Next one, standalone solar agriculture pumps. This is the component B. So first one was the solar electric grid, or the solar grid connected, what to say, the grid connected solar. The next one is the standalone solar agriculture pumps. The target is around 14 lakh pumps for off-grid areas must be set up with up to 15 horsepower. And the center, your cost sharing must be between center and the state. Don't confuse this, okay? So this component alone, there will be cost sharing between center and the state. And the farmer will give 40% with bank loan option for up to 30%. And finally, there is special provision. For example, if it is the northeastern or the hilly regions and the islands, they actually receive a higher subsidy of around 50%, and the state will give 30% and the farmer will give 20% in terms of the standalone solar agriculture pumps. Okay, so now let's move forward. The next one, solarization of grid connected agriculture pumps. So first there were solar grids, next there were agriculture pumps. Now there is solarization of these agriculture pumps. Do you understand? The next one is feeder level solarization. Feeder level is nothing but the, the energy transmitting lines. So you need to solarize these feeders, okay? And then you have to, it includes the support for feeder separation via, NABARD and then PFC and then REC, as well as the other agencies under Ministry of Power. NABARD, right? It is actually the National Bank for what? Agriculture and Rural Development. Then you have the Power Finance Corporation over there. Then you have the Rural Electrification Corporation over there. That is your REC, as well as you have the Revamped Distribution Sector Scheme. That is your RDSS. All these are included. Okay. So all these are there under Ministry of Power. And also the central finance assistance provided at 30%. So not that much is actually important over here. Feeder level solarization, the components alone, you remember, I mean, too much of details also is not too good. Okay, so overall, remember, there has to be the feeders, there actually has to be the solarization of the grid connected pumps, there have to be solar agricultural pumps that have to be set up, and then there has to be solar grids also that have to be set up. Okay, next, moving forward, the next last article that we will be discussing here is under the Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways. That is the MORTH. Okay. So here you have the Jalwahak scheme. So enhanced usage of what? Enhanced usage of your inland waterways. Okay. So inland waterways in order to carry the in order to what? In order to enhance the movement of cargo. Okay. So the cargo carrying capacity right now through the inland waterways is around how much? 130 million or so. So they are aiming to focus on the cargo movement through long distances. Okay, long hauling. Okay, which actually connects different cities and make it around 500 million tons. Okay, so this is what is you will be discussing under this particular Jalwahak scheme. So the government has recently unveiled the Jalwahak scheme in order to promote the long haul movement of cargo via India's inland waterways. Okay, so India's inland what do you mean by national waterways or the India's inland waterways is that you make use of the waterways, for example the stretch of Ganga, in order to move your cargo. Okay, and this is actually recognized under the National Waterway Act of 2016. According to that, there are 111 national waterways in India. Do you understand? You need to know all the names, okay, because match the followings can be there. National Waterway 1 matches what? National Waterway 2 is Brahmaputra. National Waterway 3, whether it is actually the West Canal across in Kerala, as well as number 4, that is your what to say, Krishna Godavari. Okay, so let's move forward and see what is this scheme. So here it is actually, it was established in the year 2024 only. Very, very important in order to incentivize the long movement, or you can say the long haul here, nothing but the long distance movement of the cargoes, okay, via the inland waterways. And this actually aims to reduce the logistics cost, because consumption of too much of energy or the emission, and they also help in decongestion of the roads as well as the railway networks. So all that can be done so that you achieve the sustainable transportation. This is also central sector scheme. National waterways, remember, so central sector, national. Okay, so the center has more power, central sector. Implementing agencies is Inland Waterway Authority of India. This actually takes care, and the Inland and Coastal Shipping Limited. Okay, so this is a subsidiary of the Shipping Corporation of India. Very, very important. So Inland Waterway Authority of India along with the subsidiary of the Shipping Corporation of India is actually the implementing agency. Next one, the nodal ministry, of course, Ministry of Ports, Shipping as well as Waterways, and the final outlay of around 100 crores, that is 95.5 crores are given. Okay, so the coverage is what? The National Waterway 1, that includes the Ganges River. National Waterway 2, I told you, Brahmaputra, and 16, that is your Barak. This is via your Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. Next one, the key targets is they are going to achieve a model shift of around 800 million ton kilometers by the year 2027, and here they are going to increase there are two targets. One is there is going to be a model shift of around 800 million ton kilometers by 2027. Next one is increase the cargo movement via waterways from currently it is 132. They are going to increase it to 200 million by 2030, and they are going to achieve this milestone of 500 million tons by the year 2047. That is the quantity of cargo which is actually surpassing these waterways. Now, the incentives of the, I mean, what are the different key features or the incentives that are provided over here is, here the scheme provides direct incentives. Okay, so here the scheme, that's the center, provides incentives to the owners of the cargo for transporting goods via the waterways when you actually exceed, around 300 kilometers. So this is very important. 300 kilometers, very, very important, and the target is also very important. Okay, achieving 500 million tons by 2047. Okay, 2047 or 27? Yeah, 47, right. So it also provides reimbursement. Okay, they will actually pay you back of up to 35% of the operating expenditure, while whatever you have actually used for this particular transportation, they will also give you a reimbursement. Next, fixed day scheduled sailing services are there. That is regular fixed schedules for cargo vessels introduced in order to ensure the timely transportation is provided. And the routes actually include different routes like Kolkata, Patna, Varanasi, Patna, Kolkata stretch of this National Waterway 1, and Kolkata to Pandu and Guwahati. This is National Waterway 2. So you need to know what is the National Waterway, what is the route, as well as the river that is actually involved, okay, via the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. And there is also encouragement of the private vessel operators also over here, okay, whereas the owners who actually transport their goods, they are encouraged to hire the vessels also, okay, by organizations other than the Inland Waterway Authority of India or ICSL, that is Inland and Coastal Shipping Limited, who are the overseeing agencies, right? The next one, incentives, this actually incentivizes the private sector also, because the owners are making use of them, okay, in order to transport the cargo in the waterways. Now we will move on to look at this particular map, very, very important, to discuss about the 13 national waterways, okay. So the links and the links. So first one, NW1, National Waterway 1, the Ganga Bhagirathi Hooghly. Okay, so this actually is Haldia and Allahabad. Okay, so if you see over here, this is number 1. Okay, Haldia, Allahabad route and Bhagirathi here. So this is your NW1, which is around, which is actually the longest, 1620 kilometers. Followed by that, you have NW2, that is your Brahmaputra. Okay, so this actually, what to say, connects your Sadhya to your Dubri over here. Yes, yeah, this is Dubri. So NW3, you actually have the West Coast Canal over here. Okay, in Kerala. Okay, this is around 205 kilometers. Next one, you have the NW4, that is this Krishna. Okay, 82 kilometers. And then you have NW10, 83. And then if you see, NW100 is the Tapi river. Very, very important. Okay, so you have the Narmada as well as the Tapi river system. See here, you have the Tapi and Narmada is 73. Okay, and then also you have NW97, Sundarbans waterway. See over here, Sundarbans waterway. So you need to know what are the rivers associated and what is the waterway. Okay, so and what is the what is a stretch of this particular route. Do you understand? And it connects which one to which route is also important. And as per the National Waterways Authority Act, that is of 2016, how many waterways have actually been given this or have been designated as national waterways, all that also becomes very, very important. Okay, so with this we are actually finishing up today's lecture. Yeah, we are finishing up today's lecture. I just want to brush up what all we have done, if time permits, on this screen itself. Yes, so that we will be starting with the other course. Okay, so we actually started with the schemes of Ministry of Agriculture as well as farmers welfare. We looked at the schemes of natural farming. We actually, National Mission on Natural Farming. We saw PM-KISAN and also the Fasal Bima Yojana for insurance as well as insurance of the crops. We saw the Namo drone Didi, where the drone services are provided for agriculture to, especially to women. So we saw all those schemes, right? And then we moved on to the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, where we discussed about the SVAMITVA scheme. Okay, and then we actually looked at NIDHI and discussed about the National Innovation Mission. Okay, and then we moved on to the Ministry of Education, where we discussed about the Vidyalaxmi Scheme. Okay, providing the scholarship for the students for pursuing higher as well as quality education. Then we saw One Nation, One Subscription to have an accessible portal as well as scholarly and research papers, right? And then we also looked into the PM-USHA scheme. Okay, then we moved on to the next part. Let me cover this area. This is in green, right? So we moved on to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Okay, so here we actually looked at what? The Udan scheme. Then we moved on to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Okay, where we saw two important schemes. One is actually on the Jan Jatiya Unnat scheme, and then we actually saw the One Bandhan Kalyan Yojana. Okay, then we actually moved on to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, where we discussed about the National Mission. Oh, sorry. Here we actually discussed about the Smart City Mission, and then we discussed about two other schemes, that is your Awas Yojana 1 and 2. And then we moved on to discuss the next article. What was the next article? National Urban Livelihood Mission. Okay, after this we actually moved on to the Smile initiative of the Ministry of 8th Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And finally we actually discussed about the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. We discussed about the PM Kusum. Okay, as well as we saw, what was the one more scheme we saw? We saw PM-KUSUM as well as the solar Ghar, Muft, Bijli, Yojana. And finally, this was the last article we saw, okay, Jalwahak scheme under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So we've actually finished 10 important ministries. Okay, so I hope you actually liked this informative session. So this is a very important series of your prelims masterclass, where we are focusing on the most important topics, be it any subject. So currently I'm dealing with the important schemes in news. After this, we'll discuss about the the reports and indices, and then we will move forward to a separate series on international relations, that is important international organizations, as well as the locations in news or the regions in focus that UPSC has been focusing on. Okay, so thanks all of you for actually watching. In case you have any doubts or you want anything from us, please do contact us, and you can download all this material in our Narayana IAS Academy app, and also you can visit our website, that is the Navigator Narayana website, where you can download the monthly as well as the yearly current affairs compilation. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. We'll meet you on Monday with other set of schemes under different other ministries. So there are around 17 ministries. Okay, so right now we've actually completed around 10. So we will continue with the rest of the series on Monday. So thank you so much and have a good day.